Malole, and welcome to another live digital conversation here on the Polynesian Eyes podcast. It's kind of a late one or early morning, depending on how you look at it. It's 1:23 a.m. here in southern Nevada, northwest Las Vegas. It was another warm day, about 102 degrees, and
Ooh,
nice and toasty, as just the way we
yep.
like it. Um, and it's really nice here in Las Vegas. It wasn't as humid. 102 degrees in South Central Texas is humid and not very comfortable. But here in Vegas, it's a little toasty but good. Mr. Aotearoa, how were things in your neck of the woods?
Mr. Aotearoa is doing very well today. Tua, I mean, it's a little, sad here. At the moment, just regarding internal family affairs. Been very busy, just preparing my home to have some lots of family members come in. I think many Polynesian families can identify with this. I think in our household there's four of us, and that four over the week for preparing this funeral is gonna probably go up to 20 individuals in the home.
Hmm.
So hey, we I grew up like that. I'm just grateful that I have in-laws and a wife to help me to prepare the home to have my families come over so we can do what we need to do and send off a good family member to the next life, even though he's already there, but just the proper proceedings that we can mourn the proper way. So that's what we're going through here. Nice and chilly. It's our winter, nice cold here in Aotearoa, but everything is going well, Tua. So yep.
Malo Masi. We are going to look at highlights of a book, and that description by Grok was showing examples of how this guy's research on the history and the origins of Lapita, and we have our own thoughts on Lapita, right?
Mhm.
That's Lapita is the term, in our opinion, that the academics use for the first
Migration.
Polynesians. Yeah,
Yes.
we
First migration.
we refer to them as the founding fathers of Polynesia and Tonga.
Hmm.
So we're going to go over some of the highlights of this video, and I want to highlight that of this book, an article, and it says the birth of Polynesia, an archaeological journey through the kingdom of Tonga. So this gentleman lived in Tonga, spent many years there doing a lot of research,
Excavation.
and
Yep.
yeah, and just for the date, it was publicized or published in 2023. So this is
Mm.
just a couple years old. So
Mm.
this is fresh off the press, if you want to call it that, right? And so what I've done is we've parsed this out to a handful of slides for us to discuss through kind of the major points of of the findings. And
All right.
I'll go ahead and I'll read the first ones, Mushi, since you were
Okay.
so kind to read the early ones. We'll take turns on the slide. So the
Okay.
first one says Nukuleka as the birthplace of Polynesia. Wow, controversial, right?
Mhm.
It- for everyone who comes and says that we don't bring receipts, even though we've covered multiple studies, this is one that's very fresh, very new, very comprehensive. I think if I look at how many pages it was, oh yeah. So if you see this,
Mhm.
um, his book is over 330 pages
Wow.
of research and writing, right? So this is not like, oh, a couple paragraphs. This is pretty extensive work. Um,
Quick question to it. Do I feel like do people reference Burley's work in other academics research to it? Because I don't know. I've only heard Burley just with his own, but not many. I'm sure he has with other maybe Polynesian Pacific study academics, but not he's not really referenced maybe many times as he should. I mean, I
I
don't
don't
know. I don't
know.
know. What's your
That's a
thoughts?
good point. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, Masi.
Okay.
directly, but yeah, I mean, we're gonna cover some of this stuff, and
Yeah. Yeah. Let the people
sometimes
decide. Yeah.
when the research doesn't align with certain people's perspective, they just ignore it.
Yeah.
But it says Nukuleka as the birthplace of Polynesia. Burley explicitly positions Nukuleka as the starting point of Polynesian history, emphasizing its singular importance based on archaeological data. Right?
Hmm.
You don't get more receipts than that. So, in this is a quote from the book. He says Nukuleka, a small village site on the northeast coast of Tongatapu, is the birthplace of Polynesia, the first place where Lapita people set foot to begin their remarkable journey of expansion. And we're going to cover some details as to why he takes this position. But right off the bat, on page 1, he makes a very bold statement, right? And obviously, we've talked about it's the oldest Lapita sighting in Polynesia is in Nukuleka, and so he'll talk about some of those things. But right off the bat, this is a pretty bold
Bold.
statement here. You know, let's start with slide number 1. So that was 8. If you want to read this one, Masi.
All right. So the earliest radiocarbon dates established Nukuleka as the first Lapita settlement. Burley argues that Nukuleka is the oldest securely dated
Securely,
Lapita
yeah.
securely dated Lapita site in Polynesia, marking it as the initial point of human settlement in the region. Radiocarbon dates from Nukuleka's earliest layers associated with Western style Lapita pottery confirm an occupation beginning around 2850. Was it Cal BP? Would you say?
Hmm.
Yeah. Making it the oldest securely dated site in Polynesia. Burley 2023. What do
Yeah.
you think, Dua? What do you think about
Well,
that?
you know, we have these people who try and tell us, oh, the earliest activities were here and there. Well, as of 2023, it seems so far. Now, could it change? Yes. But so far, the oldest documented and dated settlement in Polynesia
Tongatapu,
is Nukuleka.
Nukuleka, Nukuleka.
Yes.
Hmm.
And so, what do you got to say about that? Besides,
Yeah.
that's pretty straightforward. There's not much to say. It's like that's like a pretty blunt data point. So far, it's the oldest.
Yes. Well, and that kind of, just even with that argument, it makes it way older than Haamoa, Fiji, Tahiti, you know, Hawaii. Like it's pretty clear cut. And to me, the only way this is only another one that's gonna be older than this to when they do like this excavation and dates, or they, what does he call it, securely dated sites, because it does take a lot of time to do this work. It's going to be another place somewhere else, and it's not going to be in the outer island. It's going to be another place within Tongatapu. That's just my
Well,
thoughts to it. That's just my
well,
I mean,
no, and
I'll be surprised if there will
yeah.
be other islands even within Tonga, but it's just like it's gonna be somewhere else within Tongatapu. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but it's gonna be somewhere in Tonga, in my
Well,
opinion.
I
But
mean that goes along with some of the other articles and research that we looked at, like the mound that they found near Fuamotu, the airport
yes,
that we looked at,
one of our
where they
viewers kind
said,
of shared. Yeah,
yeah, we find out that, oh yeah, it was like what 700 years earlier, and then not only was it 700 years earlier than they had thought, but there was urbanization
yes,
in
yeah,
that. So one of the things that's interesting about Tonga's archaeology is the more that they dig into it, things get older and older, which is not necessarily the case when we look at Ha'amoa. Remember, we looked at the archaeological work on the
yeah,
Pulemele mound,
yeah,
right? We
yeah,
got to distinguish the Pulemele mound from the Lapita activity that they identified. people there try to say like, oh, the Pulimele Mound is like thousands of years old. No, 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 no. They found Lapita settlements that were thousands of years old, but the Pulimele Mound that they actually dated is actually in like the 12th or 13th century, which is right in the middle of the prime of the Tuitonga Empire.
That aligns with the oral history
Yes,
we know of, right? Yes.
yes. And so that's kind of a nuanced thing that happens. But I mean, if we're gonna go off of this, off of archaeological evidence, you can't tell me that you're the origin when you don't have the oldest mapping. Now, could they find older mapping there? Maybe.
Mm.
We'll wait and see, right? But
Mm.
so far, like you said, every time they dig and do archaeological work on Tongatapu, it gets older and older and older. And then we look at not only the Pulimele Mound, but we also looked at Tuimanua's original residence, Ta'u Island, and they came back and said 500 years old.
Mm.
When the oral history is trying to say, oh, the Tuimanua is so old, it existed before the Tuitonga. You can't exist before the Tuitonga if you're only 500 years old.
Mm.
So the
Interesting.
few examples that we have of archaeological work in Ha'amoa, it dates them younger and younger compared to their oral history. And then the Tongan archaeological evidence is going older and older than what people thought the oral history was saying. So interesting dynamics there.
Couple comments to what I have. Um, the oral history we know of, Ata Island. Did we have some kind of settlement there, Tua, or was that like a quick stopover and then went to Tongatapu? Do you know? Do you know? Because like in details of that oral history, Tua.
I don't know the details on the duration, but I do
Yeah.
know that they found Ata first. Whether they
Yes.
stayed there for a long period of time, it's not sure. But it's shortly after landing at Ata, they found Tongatapu, is what the
Okay.
oral history says.
Because yes, because I'm just only curious because if I know this takes a lot of money, stuff to do these excavation. It would be
On
pretty cool.
archaeology over there.
Yes, and Ata just to if there is something because I just want to test the oral history we know of Tua to see if there were some kind of settlement. I know there were people there before, but that's much earlier before
Hmm.
during the whole slave trade, and then they came back to I think
Tongatapu.
to Tongatapu, and they kind of integrated there. But just some kind of studies just to see Tua if it was. I mean, the oral history does say they first stopped there, but just to see if there were settlement before they made it to Tongatapu. That'll be interesting. I think.
That
Do you
would be
know? Do you know? I think. Are we the only ones with David Tafale saying that Ata, at the bottom? Because I know there's other academics saying that it's Ata or Atata, which is kind of where the
an island
Nuku'alofa
closer.
closer. Um, that seems to be the more dominant theory that they're having today. Are we the only ones? I haven't heard another
I'm
Tongan
not
person
aware
that's
of
saying that.
anyone.
Mm,
Yes,
that
I
aligns with
think
us.
that's pretty singular to Te Vitafale and the oral
All right.
history that he heard from Mu'a amongst
Yeah.
the ancestors he had there.
All right. Well, we'll take that one. We'll be the lone soldier.
Yes,
Take that one because can't go wrong from people saying it from Mua. So
yeah,
I'll
we'll
take that
carry
one
that
any
flag.
day.
We'll
We'll
carry that
carry that
flag.
flag proudly. Okay, that's all. That's what I was thinking. But
Okay,
just some comments when you were kind of going through this slide door.
sweet. We'll go to the next one. Western style Lapita, and when he says Western, it's like Western Pacific. Western
Okay.
style Lapita pottery links Nukuleka Pacific migration networks. The presence of distinctive Lapita pottery at Nukuleka, identical to that found in Western Pacific, indicates a direct and rapid migration of Lapita peoples to Tonga, positioning Nukuleka as the entry point. The pottery at Nukuleka, with its intricate dentate stamped designs, is indistinguishable
Mm,
from that found in Western Pacific, indicating a rapid movement of people and culture. So there were a couple things here that I remember reading was they found this pottery that's very similar to Western Pacific, but
Hmm.
they also found, which had the same material from the West Pacific, but they also found locally made Lapita
Mm.
pot styles. And those had a little bit more of a different design than the ones directly from West Polynesia as well. So what they're saying here is the fact that the pottery is indistinguishable from the ones from Western Polynesia, it doesn't fit the idea of from far West Polynesia and they slowly moved east, right? Because the Lapita pottery would change over long periods of time. And the fact that it's very close to West Polynesia means that they arrived. I mean, to West Pacific means that they arrived into Polynesia very quickly, which further indicates that Nukuleka is a high probability of an entry point because it happened so quickly and the pottery is such a close match to the West Pacific. So that's kind of like the idea that's being expressed here.
Okay, and I know this is the main idea to my understanding that they're saying this was the migration, right, from the Asia, yeah, right, kind of like that Asia Pacific, Papua New
Yeah.
Guinea migrating. So that's why it's from the west. When okay, because that's what they're basing it off. But my theory and also your theory too, that it's a very possibility, like we mentioned before, that the main clan, the Tangaloa clan, the Maui clan, the founding fathers, I like how you put it, founding fathers of Polynesia coming from Vaihi, and then the people gathering these potteries from other places and bringing it back. To me, that's more of the theory that kind of happened instead of this gradual migration and then coming from the west from what they're saying from Taiwan and then Papua New Guinea, all of that to
Hmm.
Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, and then to Tahiti and Easter Island and all that. So that's the only thing I would say, Tua. That's kind of what I view. I know this is what they're basing it off, but I'm kind of viewing it that from Vaihi, the founding fathers came, established, and then like I'm just saying now it's like you've established where your influence is gonna go, and then it's like you're sending the Maui title and his followers out, and they're just bringing maybe wives, bringing resources, and then it's like all full on expansion. It's like a full on expansion from there. That's how I view
Yeah.
what happened.
No, 100%. And I'm relatively open to a couple things. I'm open to the idea that the Tangaloa and the Maui clan and the Taula clan were the first people on Tongatapu. I'm open to that. I'm also open to there could have been people there. Um,
Mm,
but I am more interested in ideas rather than the origins of genetic material because to me the ideas are the important thing, right? Just like America,
mm,
you can't look at
mm,
the genetic DNA of the people of America and say,
mm.
I understand what it is to be American. No, to be American. No, it's the ideas of America that make America America. And
Correct.
so I'm more interested in, well, who brought the ideas and where did the ideas come from?
Yeah.
So whether there were people on the island or not, hey, kind of, I wouldn't say irrelevant, but it's not the most important thing to me. What I'm interested
Mm,
in is who are the people that came with the knowledge to go back and forth from West Pacific? How was
mm,
that even possible? Right?
mm,
And to make such a quick movement, okay, you could say West Polynesia, or you could say Tangaloa and Maui and their people came with the knowledge and the capabilities and were traveling throughout the Pacific. And when you find something useful, you trade for it and you bring it back. And that's how I kind of lean towards that as well. I'm open to that position as well. That could have been people living on the islands. And if there were people living on the islands, then it sounds like our ancestors were colonizers. So we can't point to the Westerners and say, oh, those bunch of colonizers. No, if there were people on the islands and these new ideas and new technology came and a new religion, quote unquote, and it spread through Polynesia, it's very possible that our ancestors were, quote unquote, colonizing Polynesia because
Mm,
we see across all of Polynesia similar language, similar religion, similar social rules.
mm.
And one could say they were colonizing, just like the Europeans did. I don't know. Just a thought
I
there.
Yeah, I want to dive in that a little bit to into the us being the first, and I have some ideas here that I've just kind of thought in my own head about this. Okay, my belief, we were the first people in Tongatapu. That's my belief there, Tua. In
Hmm.
Tongatapu, we were the first, just because of the story that I've heard regarding the word motu, which with I kind of shared it before, with motu being a short word for moloki and tutu, right? And then over time it
Hmm.
became motu to say that's they've kind of conquered that. But were we the first ones in all of the Polynesia islands today? That's I wouldn't say so because that's where we did the colonizing. I'm going to stories like Fiji, Fiji, right? The Fiji, the full word, and they've kind of taken it from the Tongan word to Fiji today. Um, Fiji is one that we've kind of, to me, my understanding, most of Fiji, there's been a lot of seemed like a Tongan colonization period that's kind of
Influence.
happened,
Yeah.
influence, and a lot of that islands there colonization happened with people who are not of the Polynesian heritage, I would say, right?
Hmm.
So that's one. Stories. It sounds like we've kind of covered it, Tua, Aotearoa, with the North South Island and some of the surrounding islands of New Zealand. Looks like we
Yeah.
did some colonizing there, right? So that's one. And then stories of Hawaii. With some people kind of being there,
Menehunes and stuff.
Menehunes, and I feel like we were doing some colonizing there. To my understanding, that's kind of where I'm going. That maybe we weren't the first in those islands, but we were more of the dominant culture in colonizing the lesser, smaller and lesser influence people. But my belief is um, Tongatapu was the we were the first ones. That's just my idea there. I
Yeah.
don't know. What do you think, Tua? What do you think about that?
Yeah. I'm open to it. I think there's a high probability to that. I mean, especially, I mean, this is going to be interesting if, as more research goes in, because
Mm,
we saw that one video where that guy looked at the ha'amonga
mm,
and he compared the weathering of limestone
mm.
per year on average. And he's like, dude,
That
there's
was
a
interesting.
chance that ha'amonga thing is 50,000 years old, right?
Dang,
And that would
dang,
be
that's
crazy.
not.
I mean, and if that ends up being true, then yeah, there's a high probability that they were the first ones to come in there at that time.
Mm,
But that's just kind of it's just mind-boggling for me to even think people were on that little island that we grew up on for 50,000 years. I don't
that
know.
is
That's
crazy.
just
That
kind of
is crazy.
beyond my ability to like look back and look forward on, but that's kind of crazy. So yeah, I'm open to that possibility. Um, obviously with my perception and background may be a little controversial for some people to
Hmm.
hear me say this, but I don't think it's by chance that Tonga had a lot of the rituals of Israel amongst them. And I don't think it's by chance that when Christianity came, Tonga embraced it more than
Mm,
almost anyone. And actually, not just were the missionaries that expressed or pushed Christianity around Polynesia and the Pacific, but funded it. That's the one thing that blows my mind. Like,
yeah.
we funded that. Like, the London Missionary Society out of Australia, we funded the Pacific Christian program there. That's mind
Mm,
boggling to me. Up until the point that Tupo the First said, okay, okay, tides are no longer leaving Tonga. It's going to stay here in Tonga. Make
Create our
Tonga
own.
great again.
Yep. Yep.
He did that make Tonga great again kind of deal. But to
Yep.
me, it's not by chance that we remained independent,
Mm.
right? It's not by chance we have the highest conversion rate to the Latter Day Saint, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter Day Saints, which I prescribe to as the restored gospel. These
Mm.
things, I'm like, there comes a time where after one data point, after another data point, after another data point, to say this stuff's not by chance. Now, what is it? What is it geared towards, or what is it pointing to? I'm not quite sure. But what I am saying is something to be seems to be different than all the others, and that's what I am trying to say. Is that I don't know exactly what that thing that it's working towards, but it's something special, but I can't quite fully express it right now. I don't know if that makes sense
No, it
to you,
does.
Mr.
It does.
Aotearoa.
No, it does.
All right, let's go to the next slide. Is it your turn or my turn on this one?
Yes, sir. My turn. My turn. All right. Immediate agriculture adaptation support founder status. Excavations at Nukuleka revealed planting pits for crops like taro, banana, and coconut, showing that Lapita settlers established a sustainable agricultural base upon arrival, reinforcing its role as a founder colony. The presence of planting pits at Nukuleka dated to the initial occupation demonstrates that Lapita settlers brought a fully developed agricultural system. Burley, 2023, page 65. What you think about that, Dua?
Yes, this is actually very interesting. We covered an article that kind of spoke about this a little
Mm,
previously. So
the
what this is
soil,
talking about,
the soil,
yes,
yeah.
it's a farming technique where you build up the soil and then you make it like a pit in the middle, and you
Mm,
use different soil types, and then you plant your talo and all the banana and all these different things. And what it does is it actually collects water and holds it in there, and that soil structure and that farming technique actually gives it more resistance to drought, and also poor poor soils like sandy soils where the water will just go through and drain away. It holds it, and
wow.
that is a technique that they find in other islands in Polynesia, and the oldest example of that technique is found in Nukuleka,
Mm,
which is why they're saying, yeah, this is a founder colony because this is where the oldest example of this technique being used. And actually, the reason why they say this is really important, because in order to survive on some of these little atolls and these little sandy islands, is these are the techniques that helps build food security to be able to put a colony on a small island and survive. So
mm,
this is a very strong piece of evidence outside of the Lapita, where they're saying, hey, no, this is a farming technique that we find throughout Polynesia. And the oldest version, have you noticed? Oldest Lapita, the oldest tattooing kit, the oldest farming technique. Like,
technique.
there comes a point where you're like, there's the data points, and you're like, if it looks like a fish, if it swims like a fish, if it smells like a fish, well, dang
It's
on it, it
acting like
just
a
might
fish.
be a fish. You know, you can't have all these data points of it's kind of a fish. It looks like a fish. Why don't we just say it's a fish until we're
Mm,
proven otherwise? Then here are all the data points that are proving Nukuleka Tongatapu as the founding colony in Polynesia. This is very, very compelling evidence, man.
mm,
Like, what is the counters to these? It's the oldest dating for Lapita. It's the oldest example of the pit farming technique that's found throughout Polynesia. What are you going
mm.
to say against that? No, my oral history tells me, okay, we appreciate oral history, but You know, that's what I think. It's funny. All these people say, "You guys never bring receipts." Just because you don't like my receipts doesn't mean you can say I don't have receipts.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And then when we ask them what's their receipts, well, you know, the Tui Manua was so ancient that we can't find any evidence of it.
Yeah.
Okay. You know,
At least,
like the guy
yeah.
who went fishing and say he found a shark. He's like, do you at least have a picture? You have a smartphone. Oh, I didn't feel like taking a picture. Oh, okay. All right. I've heard that before.
No, I was just thinking, or at least, have some kind of like a soil thing that say, even to suggest that you have some kind of settlement that's pretty old, to at least say something that, we do have some a starting point to something, because you develop, right, because it's important to find settlement, some building of a colony to show, because you don't just start from nowhere. There's a development of
Progression.
creating, yes, progression. Or even having a different, like, even that guy. And that's why it's so important to have ruins. We always go by the ruins. That guy that has a different method, and he's an expert of the weathering we provided. He's in his opinion, he's saying this is like a 50,000-year old ruin that exists, with just based on his way, or his method of dating, right, with the weathering pattern. So even having something like that in some of our neighboring Polynesian islands would even help. But like, everything is just coming back to Tongatapu, man. Like, that's what I was thinking too when you were talking about. I was gonna mention, we already have the human settlement. Now Burley is touching. We can't blame Burley. He's a non-partisan individual. He's just sharing what he thinks and what he's found, and he's just writing about it. Now he's saying this is the oldest type of agriculture method of introducing new soil to kind of maintain food security, to grow a population, because you got to have a method of um, stable food security to grow a population. So this is the way. This is the oldest way found in Nukuleka, Tonga. So it's just all the data points. It's just leading towards what we've kind of expressed in our many videos in the past. Tonga being the founding place and established headquarter for the Polynesian nation. That's all I have to say on that one, Tua.
Yeah, 100%. All right. What is the next one? Rapid expansion from Nukuleka to other Polynesian islands. Burley contends that Lapita groups expanded from Nukuleka to northern Tongan islands, example Vava'u, Tapu, and Samoa within a few generations,
Mm.
with Nukuleka as the origin point. Within a few generations, Lapita groups from Nukuleka had established settlements as far north as Tapu and west to Samoa, a testament to their seafaring prowess. So what he's saying
Mm.
is what he sees in Nukuleka within a short amount of time.
Mm.
I think he estimated about 50 years. Within a short amount of time, that's just basically one generation. You're seeing settlements where they've done studies on Lapita that there's a growth and expansion, and they've dated those things, and it's like 50 years after the Nukuleka.
Uh,
So, and that comes in with the scaling capabilities, right? Where now you're expanding, and
yep.
that means you have the right canoes. That means you have the navigation technology. That means you have the food security and the structure back on Tonga to facilitate such migrations. So you're seeing it very, very early, thousands of years ago, right?
Mm.
Thousands of years ago, from the moment they landed, 50 years later, they're progressing to other islands, including Samoa.
Mm.
What do we
Interesting.
got to say? What do we got to say about that, Mussy? What
Yep.
receipts? Apparently, people need more receipts. Can you
And
bring
well,
any more receipts, Mussy?
Well, that's why we keep doing it. We're just gonna keep going. If they choose not to be blind, we can't blame them. They that's their own conscious decision. you know, you know. Um, but I'm thinking too, like this, like what you mentioned, this expense. I feel like what this gentleman is saying in his research, saying seems like this the experiment happened in the headquarter. When they're in the lab, they're saying, okay, we're able to have this agriculture. It's working here. We're gonna take this knowledge and we're gonna spread it. And then now they've gone to the northern islands of the modern Polynesian islands in Tonga, the modern kingdom of Tonga, now to Wava'u, Tapu. Now they're heading into to Ha'amoa to, let's just say, when your experiment is successful, they're taking this technology and implementing to these other islands. So this is kind of like what Burley is suggesting, kind of the starting of the whole
The spread.
migration, the
Yep,
spread. So
100%.
mm,
And I mean, and so far it seems to make sense, right?
yeah,
He says oldest Lapita, you have the oldest pit farming, and then when you go test other Lapita sites north in Vava'u, the Niwas, and in Samoa, those are about 50 years after
after.
the first landing in Nukuleka. So he's like, oh man, these guys moved pretty quick.
Mm,
I mean, it seems to make sense,
yeah.
apart from his statements and stuff, but it seems to make sense.
All right, this is me here.
Oh, yeah.
What was
This
that,
one
Tua?
I may have forgotten to update the title here, but we may have missed the title. Let me
Okay,
let me see what it was supposed to say. Um,
if you find it, just read that. Then I'll go ahead with that yellow words there. No stuff.
yes. Oh, it's supposed. Oh, yeah. This is the same one. What was it supposed to say before? No, that seems to be right. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, just read it again. Yeah.
Okay. Rapid expansion from Nukuleka to other Polynesian islands. Burley contends that Lapita groups expanded from Nukuleka to northern Tongan islands, Vava'u, Tapu, and Samoa within a few generations, with Nukuleka as the origin point. Within a few generations, Lapita groups from Nukuleka had established settlements as far north as Tapu and west to Samoa, a testament to their seafaring prowess. The Lapita site at Ofu in Vava'u, with pottery nearly identical to Nuku'deka's, is dated to within 50 years of founder colony, indicating near ins- instantaneous. Is that correct? I'm saying that correctly. Expa-
Instantaneous.
Instantaneous expansion. Just kind of
Yeah.
like what you mentioned before, Tua.
Yeah. I may have duplicated that slide. I apologize. Maybe I didn't realize one was a double point there, but yeah, same point, right? They're moving very quickly and they can trace that through the Lapita potteries age and expansion and the sites.
Can
This
thank
one,
Maui for that one.
genomic. Yeah, read this one out, Masi.
Genomic cultural continuity from Nuku'deka. Burley cites genomic studies and archaeological evidence to argue that Nuku'deka's population seeded Polynesian ancestry and culture across the region, supporting its foundational role. Genomic studies align with archaeological evidence showing a bottleneck population at Nuku'deka that seeded Polynesian ancestry across the region. Burley, 2023, page 112.
Yeah. So basically, they're saying that they also have genome studies, genetic studies, right,
Mm.
and cultural continuity that shows a start from Nukuleka and spreading north.
How are they testing that too? Like how are you testing that genome? But can you explain to me, like, in maybe what your thoughts on how are they studying that genomic study? Like how are they testing
Can
that?
you
Are they
see
testing that?
this? Can you see
Yeah.
this? So
No,
genome study.
I'm not seeing it.
Let me go back here. Where are we?
Like, are they studying
Uh,
like maybe when they, like some of the places where they, I don't know, use like their waste management or something, and there's still stuff that's kind of mixed with the soil, or how is that done? That's what I'm interested in.
yes. So here it says a genomic study is a scientific investigation that analyzes the complete set of DNA, the genome, within an organism or population to understand genetic variation, inheritance, and their roles in traits, diseases, and evolutionary history. In the context of David V. Burley's The Birth of Polynesia, an archaeological journey through the kingdom of Tonga, genomic studies are used to trace the ancestry and migration patterns of the Lapita peoples, supporting the argument that Nukuleka in Tonga was a founding colony. So, in one of the studies we looked at previously, they actually looked at some people who were buried,
Oh, okay.
some burials, and they
So
took those
these
genetic material.
okay, so this is grave sites in Nukuleka Tua.
Yes, that
Okay,
Nukuleka
okay.
area,
I wasn't sure. I
and
wasn't sure.
they took the DNA from that, and I don't know if they found DNA in the other settlements, but it
Mm,
sounds like it, and they made comparisons. So it says the key aspects of genomic studies. A genome is an organism's entire DNA sequence, including genes and non-coding regions. Genomic studies use techniques like DNA sequencing to analyze this sequence. Methods: whole genome sequencing, reading the entire DNA sequence to identify variations; targeted sequencing, focusing on specific genes or regions like mitochondrial DNA or Y chromosome markers, often used in population studies; genotyping, examining specific genetic markers, example, single nucleotide polymorphisms or NSPs to compare individuals or groups; application, population genetics, tracing ancestry, migration, and admixture. Example, how Lapita people spread across Polynesia. Evolutionary biology, understanding genetic adaptations or relationships between species. Medical research, identifying genes linked to disease or traits. Techniques, common tools include next generation sequencing, polymerase chain reaction, PCR, and bioinformatics to process large data sets.
relevance. Want me to read that one to us?
Relevance. Yeah, read this one.
Relevance to Burley's argument. Burley cites. So it seems like Tua, what we're reading here, it seems to very the AI is just reference a lot of Burley seems to be using this kind of method of his.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, of his
yeah, because
documentation.
it recognizes that I'm asking questions a lot about Burley to put in the presentation. So it's
Yeah.
like every question I'm asking, it's referencing it back to the Burley because it knows that's what I'm talking about.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right. Burley cites genomic studies to support Nukureka's role as a founding colony, showing that its Lapita population was a genetic bottleneck that seeded Polynesian ancestry. He states genomic studies align with archaeological evidence showing a bottleneck population at Nukureka that seeded Polynesian ancestry across the region. Burley, 2023, page 112. These studies likely analyze ancient DNA from Lapita era remains or modern Polynesian populations, identifying shared genetic markers that trace back to Tonga, 2900 to 2850, 1950 to 900 BC. For example, how do you say it?
Mitochondrial.
Michael mitochondrial, excuse me, DNA or autosomal DNA comparisons can reveal a common ancestry linking Tongan settlers to later Polynesians in Samoa, Hawaii, and beyond.
Yeah,
E-
read this too. Example. Yeah.
yes. Example in Polynesian context, genomic studies of Polynesians often focus on Austronesian ancestry, linking Lapita people to Taiwan or Southeast Asia, via genetic markers, bottleneck effects, low genetic diversity in early Nukuleka settlers, indicating a small founding population, admixture, evidence of minimal mixing with other groups during rapid expansion, as Burley notes for sites like Ofu in Vava'u, Burley 2023, page 94. In summary, genomic studies provide a molecular lens to complement Burley's, where did I leave off? To complement
Right
Burley's,
here.
yeah, archaeological evidence confirming Nukuleka's genetic legacy and Polynesian origins. If you want details on specific genomic techniques or studies, Burley references, let me know. All right, so it's saying to like some of its markers, they're finding it the same from specifically Nukuleka to Southeast Asia, and that's why they're kind of going there. Or help me
No, what
understand that.
what what they're saying is when they studied the DNA markers of the population in Nukuleka,
Yeah.
there was very little biodiversity. And then as they found the
Mm,
population spreading out from Tonga, that it got more diversified. This is the same thing like language. Remember when we looked
eh,
at the language trees? The
eh.
Tongic language didn't have a lot of diversity. That's why they say it stayed older to the prototype language. But the
Mm,
Samoic ones, they were grouped together because they went through the most amount of change. And so
mm,
they're using that bottleneck of DNA to say, oh, they must have originated from Nukuleka because there's the least amount of diversity in Nukuleka. I mean, that's the founding colony that was very small. But as they spread out, they may have been intermixing with other people as they were spreading
e-
out, adding more biodiversity.
Interesting. So this is bringing up a question here, Toa. So when they did the whole DNA, are they using the DNA from Burley's research to connect to the Southeast Asia and Taiwan? And they're saying where that that's where that connection is happening for the origin, or because it seems like Burley's saying that this is just a new thing that was small group of people that seemed to start in Nukureka and then the expanding that way. Is that, I don't know,
Yes,
help me understand. Help me understand
he's
that concept.
he's he's looking. That's one way you could use the DNA testing is to get the origins from the West. But he it doesn't look like that's what he did. What he did was he looked at the DNA of the people they found in Nukuleka,
Eh,
right, and then compared it with the people they were finding in other sites, and he was like, the
it's
biodiversity in Nukuleka was much smaller compared
mm,
to the people in Samoa and in Vava'u, which shows that the population is growing in those areas, but it starts. That's why he uses the word seed because it starts
mm,
small. It was a small group, and then they expand as they're going out as the population grows, and possibly by intermixing or just by the growth of the population, the diversity increases from there, and that's why he's saying this is the same thing like the language. And also we were talking about where they said um in Samoa they kind of tied to Eastern Polynesian, a lot of it
mm,
coming from Samoa.
mm,
Well, yes, we were talking about that. See, this kind of proves our conversation we had previously where that shows that they're coming from Samoa. But what's even a more dense or smaller diversity than Samoa is going back to Tonga. So it just shows it goes from Tonga, Vava'u, Samoa, Eastern Polynesia.
mm, mm. Interesting, man. This is, yeah, Burley, man. This is a really great work he's done publishing some of all of his work here.
Here's the interesting question here, Masi.
All right,
If
I'll
so,
read it.
what? Yeah, go ahead and read it.
Non, this is from Nonsky. If so, what they keep bringing Tapu Tapu Atea as a place of centralization for Polynesia. To me, the Tonga Empire had some type of influence on this place. What's your thoughts, Tua, for Dusky's question here?
Yeah, I mean, hey, Nonsky, that's a fair point. We've had this conversation. It is not controversial to say Eastern Polynesia was the youngest place
Yeah.
to be colonized. Like that's or spread of Polynesian. So let's keep that in the context, right?
Mm.
And then the other part is in the Tongan Empire, and I believe it was was it Momo? Who was Tuitatui's father? I think it was Momo.
Momo. Yeah.
Yes, he's the one that instituted you don't have to come to Tongatapu every year for the Polo Polo and the Inasi. They don't have to
Mm.
come twice a year.
Yeah.
Because he saw it as it's too burdensome and it's dangerous, right? To
Yeah.
do those
Yeah.
long trips. So he instituted in certain areas, they didn't have to come to Tongatapu. They just had a representative of the Tuitonga in those areas,
Mm.
and that's where those areas could come and give their polo polo and their inasi twice a year. And it sounds like Tapu Tapu Atea kind of fits that
For that
mold
region, iyo
for that
Marquesas,
region.
Rapa Nui, iyo. Yeah.
Yeah, that they would all go to Tapu Tapu Atea twice a year to pay their polo polo and their inasi to someone that Tuitonga had authorized to represent him, and that became the ritual there. So that's kind of my perspective on it. I don't know if you have any other thoughts to that, Masi.
Yeah. No, I think the big one you kind of stated earlier, Tua. Um, we all know as Eastern Polynesian, it's very young, and then Burley's point just proves it. It's many years much younger compared to the the archaeological studies in Tonga. So that proves a point. And like what you said with the region tour of being established as a place, I think I'll throw Hawaii to include there as coming to Tapu Tapu Atea, giving their offerings
Mm.
for the Tu'i Tonga, and that was why Tapu Tapu Atea was important. But it can't be the centralization for Polynesia because it
Too
was
young.
way too young. It's like not even close. If that would have had a better argument if there is some kind of work and dates to say that they were one of the founders and older Polynesian islands of Polynesian settlement, but
Yeah.
nothing is indicated to that.
And another thing that's interesting, and we've discussed this and mentioned this a couple times before, Masi, when we look at the ruins in Tahiti, they're very similar to the ruins that are tied to Tongans in Uvea,
Amoa. Yeah,
Futuna, and in Ha'amoa. It's the
yeah,
stacked rocks, right?
yes.
And these maraes that are seem to be built for not just a fortress but also for ceremonial things.
Mm. Well,
So there's also those connections as well.
and I was thinking that took a lot of work, but remember that fits the narrative of temporary settlements of Tuitongas when they would travel around the Polynesian nation and empire. And when you're a temporary, you're gonna go back sometime to your home in Tongatapu, but when you're temporary residents at other your Polynesian kingdom or influence, those are the fastest way to create a ruin to practice. Like you said, there were the Tuitonga's main responsibility was the gatekeeper of the ancient religion to do
Hmm.
their practice wherever they were at, and then establish like what you mentioned, a place where harvests and the fruits were gathered to represent their polo polo or inasi to the Tuitonga. So yeah,
Yeah,
to me
yeah.
that's the kind of ruins that your residency there that you need to build quickly because you're gonna be moving to other places not long after.
100%,
Mm.
100%. Hopefully that's helpful to you, Nonsky.
Yeah, Malo Naski.
Yeah, let's So that covers the genome there. I think we got one more slide.
All
And it
right.
says cultural foundations for Polynesian. What is this word? Let me open it up. I can't tell what that word is because it's covered by our logo here.
Logo.
Um, let's
Some
do this.
skull
Oh
complexity.
no, let me see if I can get the logo here. Where is it? Where is it at? Ah, right there. Social.
Socials.
Social.
Okay.
Cultural foundations for Polynesian social complexity. Nukuleka's early innovations in boat building and voyaging laid the groundwork for Polynesian social stratification, further evidencing its role as a cultural cradle. The seeds of Polynesian social stratification were sown at Nukuleka, where boat building and voyaging fostered leadership and status.
My
Interesting. So
God.
he's saying he found evidence of boat building and voyaging in Nukuleka
Wow.
900 BC, right? If we go
Mm.
back to here, what he's saying is, where is that one that had, where were we reading where it said that 900 BC?
That was in the Gronk.
There's this Grok where he
Grok.
converts the date. He converts the date. Yeah. So here. So just to bring it back so people can see it, so they know we're not making it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
That this 200 and 900 to 250 cal BP is 950 to 900 BC. That's pretty dang old. And if that's Tangaloa, maybe that's about when Tangaloa shows up. And then what? About 500 years later, the Tuitonga gets installed. So
Ooh.
maybe this is the best date we have for
After the
Tangaloa's arrival.
Tangaloa to Tonga. That's been a question. I think our past episodes from other viewers were giving like,
People have
how
asked.
long?
Yeah,
Yes, how long was the Tangaloa before the Tuitonga? So at least we got something. That's pretty good, Tua. That's pretty amazing
yeah.
that we can at least
And
put
and
at
and
least
the
a
fact,
timeline on that.
yeah, and at least and the fact that Burley says he found boat building
Mm.
capabilities and voyaging, that's pretty dang early. Where else can we find anywhere in Polynesia that they discovered boat building and voyaging capabilities almost 1,000 years before Christ was born? That's pretty. I mean, once
The
again, I know you heard me
Tuipulotu
say it many
somewhere.
times, Marcy. What kind of receipts do you need, man? Maybe you just don't like the receipts that we're bringing. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, when you put the dates like that, it leaves you no room for any other theories of like a previous empire, like before the like previous empire, like the Tui Pulotu and the Tui Manu. Like that just squashes all of that because it's literally like
So
Tangaloa the founder and then Tangaloa to the Tui Tonga with those dates. There's no room for
yeah,
other
and then
theories.
it also kind of says like Tangaloa couldn't have been living in Samoa because he sounds like he was in Tonga of 900
Mm,
BC. And
mm,
then when we look at the ruins for the Tu'imanua, 500 years old, and then we have stuff here of boat building and
mm,
voyaging that's
mm.
dated back to almost 1,000 years before Christ. So that's what 3,000 years ago, which is interesting because Tevita Fale has always used that number,
Wow.
that the Tongan civilization is in his mind about 3,000 years old.
Mm. Yeah, because I know he's always kind of said with the dates that just provided, he thinks it was much older. Tonga was much older than that, especially with the Ha'amonga. Because I remember asking him, it's like, what do you think? Do you think the Ha'amonga is when it first came out with its date and they're doing the carbon dating and stuff? He's like, it is what it is. But from my understanding, it from the oral history he knows, it's older than that. So man, that's pretty crazy.
Mm. Well, with that being said, Mr. Aotearoa, I mean, any closing thoughts on that?
No, nothing in particular. It's just another evidence that we're gonna keep on going and sharing uh, our ideas here from the Polynesian Eyes podcast on the live digital cover session. It Burley's proving our point. The starting port was in Tongatapu. This is where everything started. The idea looks the experiment with the soil and agriculture, right? And then expanding to the rest, and it was like full on expansion because it actually evolved rapidly to the other islands with the mixing with other people, or even bringing. I have the idea that we're bringing people from all parts of, dude, who knows, all the way from Japan, all over Pacific, whoever,
Who knows?
wherever they can reach, wherever they can
Yeah,
reach, they're bringing different kind of people, wives, everything, and bringing them to assimilate, assimilate to the Polynesian nation or the Polynesian
hmm
empire of the Tangaloa to Tonga empire of those days, and then the remnants of that empire lives on to the current Tupo family that's has connection from the Tangaloa to the Tuitonga, that we're very happy that it has survived, and Polynesia can be proud of that. We'll keep pushing that until we are proven wrong, and then we will say that we are wrong. But other than that, we'll keep pushing this idea until it gets debunked. But you know we love everybody. I appreciate the viewers always. Man, our viewers are pretty awesome too, always giving us
100%.
suggestions of content that we can react to. Always appreciate, because one, we don't have to look for content. Our viewers are just awesome, giving us suggestions to react to other content out there. So ofatu everyone, until the next one. That's all for me. Malo.
Yes, my closing thoughts are this: to tie the sister that we had that talked about how the LDS Church has colonized us and
Ooh.
has extracted resources. And then we look at this study that says the Tongan Polynesian civilization is 3,000 years old.
Oof.
Please, let's give our ancestors some respect and say they didn't build a civilization that started 3,000 years ago that's still running today,
Mm,
that they didn't have the foresight, that they didn't have the mental capacity, that they didn't have the spiritual capacity, that they didn't have the political capacity to endure colonization and to
mm,
choose the religion freely. And if you are religious and you believe God loves all his children and talks to all his children, then I'm pretty dang sure that our ancestors and our civilization that existed for 3,000 years, there had to be a time God was talking to them. I think you and I agree, Masi, God was talking to them from the very beginning. But
yep.
let's give the benefit of the doubt, and let's just say they did it from the beginning. But for 3,000 years, you telling me God wouldn't talk to them? I believe God would have spoken to them, and I believe God led them out there. There's a reason why the Polynesian Empire has existed. There's a reason why the Polynesian Empire's capital survived colonization. There's a reason why the Polynesian Empire embraced Christianity, because it saw the similarities. Let's once again, let's not throw our ancestors under the bus and think we were better than them. Let's
Mm,
appreciate them. Let's show them the courtesy of us following their examples and thinking for ourselves and doing what you said earlier, Masi. Pick what you think is good and adopt it to your life. Adapt,
mm,
build upon what they gave you, and that's a way that you can show your ancestors how you are being the best Tongan, Samoan, Fijian, Tahitian,
Mm,
Tuvalu, Futunan, whatever you want to be, that's how you can show. And it comes back to what we've mentioned before. This is why it's so important to go and serve your family, whether it's your
yeah.
nuclear family, your extended family. That is what our ancestors did for thousands and thousands of years. And let's not be afraid to stand our ground and say, no, I'm not going to, neglect my family. No, I'm not going to neglect my faith just
Mm,
because the person who failed to colonize our people is coming again with a new strategy to colonize us by saying, decolonize yourself. No, thank you. We're going to continue to do what our ancestors did.
yeah.
I can't say it any more than what you said, Masi. I feel so blessed to have the viewers and the listeners that we have because of for the exact reason that you said. They're
Mm,
engaging. They
yep.
share content. They give us ideas. Sometimes we disagree and we
Yeah.
go back and forth on the points, but that's fine. We don't think that like in order for you to enjoy our content, you have to agree with everything we say. We
Yeah.
just want to be
Yep.
able to stimulate you and give you ideas, give you different perspectives.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll look at the same data and disagree with us, and that's fine.
Yep.
Sometimes we'll look at the same data and agree. But what we do want to do is, like we always say at the end of every show, right? Stay curious and don't be afraid to ask the tough questions. And until next time, peace.
Peace.